Recording in progress.
Ok, entonces lo único que hago es, por ejemplo, cada vez que la gente va a una sala de espera, ¿verdad? Entonces se admite y luego que se admite, los agrego como coanfitriones para que tengan todos los permisos. Es lo
Ah,
único.
ok. Ok, entonces, si quieres, cuando ingresan, se ve quién ingresa y le coloco coanfitrión, ¿cierto?
Sí, en la parte de abajo tú ves el botón que dice participantes.
Acá está. Ujú.
Ok. ¿Ves? Ahorita ahí está Rodolfo. Si quieres lo admites tú. Ok.
Listo, ya lo admití.
Ahora, como yo tengo el rol de anfitrión, tú no lo puedes convertir en coanfitrión, pero lo voy a convertir yo. Ahí ya lo convertí. ¿Eso es todo?
Ya regresé,
Ah,
ahora
¿solo es eso?
dejar de compartir. Ahora sí ya. Perfecto. Ok, entonces aquí ya.
Ah, ah, es que Rodolfo lo envió hasta el grupo de en el que no está Marvin. Con razón, Marvin. Pero ya lo
Ah,
pudiste hacer, súper bien. Sí.
me están excluyendo.
Y ya,
Ah, pero ahí
ahorita,
está. Ahí ya estamos viendo el paisaje.
sí,
Súper bien, sí.
están viendo mi presentación
No, creo que seleccionaste otra pantalla. Estamos viendo tu escritorio. Ahora sí estamos viendo la presentación en modo presentación.
en modo presentación. Entonces, déjenme dejar de compartir.
Sí. Ahí está, estábamos viendo tus apuntes. Entonces,
Ujú.
Sí,
Si puedes, la vuelves a compartir.
sí, voy a intentar entonces la otra pantalla, ¿va? Es que aquí en
Sí.
Zoom será desktop. Ahora desktop, a ver, compartir.
ok, ahí estamos. Ahora, ajá, presiones ahí. Ahí estamos.
Ahora sí,
Ahora sí.
ok, tengo eco.
Bueno, te dejo los controles, Karencita. Les deseo suerte. Al final les paso el reporte que genera Zoom automáticamente y toda la transcripción para las anotaciones correspondientes.
Ok, tú me lo compartes. Gracias.
Bueno, que estén
Gracias,
muy bien.
Marvin.
Se cuidan, chao.
Bueno, que estés bien. Cualquier cosa te escribo.
Ok.
Mira que yo entendí, Rodolfo, es que yo no sé si vi mal el mensaje. Mira, ya está Juan Felipe acá.
Dejar de compartir. Ya dejé de compartir. Ahora déjenme ver si.
Mm,
Hola,
Hol-
Rodolfo, hola, Karen, ¿cómo van?
Hola,
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
estoy viendo la configuración de mi pantalla para ver si todo es correcto. Entonces ahora voy a
Yo, yo-
compartir mi
yo había
pantalla.
entendido en un mensaje pero no sé si vi mal, Juan Felipe, que tú le proponías a Rodolfo compartir la presentación, que tú lo ibas a hacer.
Sí, si quieres, Rodolfo, yo puedo hacerlo y más bien así no hacemos tanto cambio entre el uno y el otro, sino que tú te concentras más en ir hablando, en ir presentando
Ah,
y
ok.
cuando yo vaya a hacer las transiciones, si te parece, cuando yo vaya a hacer, pues simplemente la quito y lo peor es, pues no va a pasar nada, sino que nos vemos las caras y... mm, usas ese minuto, esos 30 segundos para ir conversando, pero así te quita la cosa de estar poniendo, quitando la cosa, sino más bien ir hablando y yo voy proyectando y en algún momento tendré que parar un momento para copiarlo del Menti en la presentación, pero mientras eso podemos conversar sin problema.
Perfecto. Bueno, entonces, pues le hacemos así. Tú compartes.
Exacto, esa es la idea. Voy a alistar aquí ya en un minuto lo que vamos a compartir
y ya. Bien, pues entonces, voy a... Ahí me
Tú
ven.
tienes la lista de los participantes, ¿cierto, Rodolfo? Para que también los tengas ahí. Tú la tienes, ¿sí?
Me la
Ah,
mandó Juliana.
bueno, listo, perfecto.
Déjame bajarla. La abro. Ahí está. Sí, aquí ya la tengo yo. Beatriz Cárdenas, Chiara Antonelli, Jonathan Mock, Luisa González y Sergio Sánchez. Yo tengo un tío que se llama Juan Mock Lassi, o sea, casi igualito. Jonathan es Juan, ¿no? Porque Jonathan no es Juan Felipe.
John, John, John Juan, Jonathan, Juancho, sí.
Juan. Tú no serías Jonathan Philippe,
O John Philip
Jean Philippe, pero Jonathan no será Juan, pero no sé, en alemán o
en sueco.
en sueco, algo así, ¿no? Sí, yo digo que sí.
Eh,
Bueno, entonces,
De
pues
acuerdo, Rodolfo, en 2 minuticos antes de dar ingreso a las personas, de pronto repasamos acá muy breve la presentación en general y
Sí, porfa, sería interesante. Gil debe ser Mónica, ¿cierto? Sí, que está
Mónica.
ingresando.
Entonces, acá Rodolfo, si quieres, ahí ya se ve. Entonces acá, bueno, sabes que inicia la introducción, bueno, la presentación, grupo focal. eh, Vas con el objetivo en general del blueprint, los objetivos de esta sesión.
pero nada más empezando, yo le doy la palabra a Ann, ¿es
Es,
correcto?
es verdad, es verdad. Acá, con esta diapositiva, le das la palabra a Ana. Ana dará la bienvenida, dará algunas cosas.
Sí,
Es posible que ella mencione algo de esto y si no, tú lo retomas ahí. Después, me parece importante que te detengas un momento en esta diapositiva para dejar muy claras las dos cosas que esperamos de la sesión y
sí,
la agenda.
sí,
En los dos anteriores ha funcionado muy bien mantener estos bloques de agenda porque garantizan que terminamos a la hora que es. Y ahí sí, abres el micrófono para que cada uno se presente.
sí,
Y lo que, por ejemplo, hizo Tom ayer fue, pues como habíamos varios de nosotros también conectados, entonces tú mismo de pronto al final los mencionas para que no tengamos que pasar todos por el micrófono, sino que dices, bueno, además del equipo de trabajo hay varias personas apoyando y con eso ya creo que es suficiente porque así nos permite que pasemos directamente a un poco esta diapositiva que es de contexto, seguramente algo de esto hablarás previamente, no hay que detenerse mucho ahí, y al primer ejercicio que es este ejercicio de Mentimeter, que tiene estas 3 preguntas, si recuerdas, relacionadas con, estás oculta, pero se va a ver un poquito más grande. Lo que quiero mostrarte aquí es que incluso si todas las 3 opciones o los 3 casos quedan en el cuadrante superior derecho, hay cosas que comentar. Creo que, y ahí se abre el micrófono y ahí puedes abrir el micrófono y escuchar también las opiniones de los demás, incluso por qué todas son importantes o bueno, dependiendo de la respuesta, ahí conversar un poco.
Pero,
Después,
pero
sí,
Juan Felipe, tú eres el que, o sea, cuando aparezca la del QR, ahí yo te doy la palabra, ¿es correcto?
me puedes dar la palabra, puedo explicar la actividad, pero la discusión de pronto, si la promueves, vamos a ver los resultados en pantalla. Entonces,
Ah, ok. Ahí lo vamos a ir viendo y yo voy promoviendo un poco la discusión.
dos,
Ah,
3 minutos, 2, 3 minutos para que después entres a conversar un poco, bueno, cómo se estructura este blueprint, reconocer que son 3 corrientes de trabajo y que aquí nos centramos en una y, y después
ujú.
y llegar a esta lista preliminar de acciones que sacamos a partir del ejercicio de la encuesta. Ahí volvemos al Menti. Después de esta lista, Rodolfo, volvemos al Menti
Sí,
y trabajamos ya con los resultados del Menti basados en después definir las 3 acciones. El Menti nos va a generar una priorización y después ya la discusión grande se va a dar en torno a esto, ¿no?
ujú.
Tenemos 2 opciones. Una, dejar esta proyectada junto con las acciones priorizadas acá en un cuadrito que yo las pego muy rápido,
Sí,
o simplemente quitar la pantalla y dejar los cuadros para vernos las caras un poco más, pero creo que la primera funciona bien porque nos sirve de guía para la
sí,
conversación.
sí, yo prefiero que se quede, sí, definitivamente. Yo prefiero que...
Entonces, va a haber un momento en el que no va a haber presentación, pero ahí puedes ir hablando un poco o conversando y en un minuto después, pues yo proyecto ya esta con la lista de las 3 priorizadas y listo. Y sobre eso se termina la discusión, dejando 5 minutos al final para que puedas mencionar claramente esto y agradecer y preguntar si están de acuerdo con que su nombre se incluya en la lista de personas que contribuyen.
Ujú.
Listo, estamos a 5 minuticos de arrancar. Karen, tú pones a grabar el...
Ya estamos grabando.
Hasta...
Ya,
Ok.
sí, igual editamos el video, pero ya está grabando. No sé si te apareció cuando ingresaste como aviso de que se estaba grabando la sesión.
A mí sí, pero ya, pues ya en 3 minutos iniciamos, ¿no? Dejamos entrar a todo mundo. ¿Es
Sí,
correcto?
sí, sí. Sí, correcto.
Buenos días a todos y que tengamos una muy buena sesión. Yo voy a estar por aquí de apoyo si se requiere.
No,
Gracias.
bueno,
La Moni, gracias.
gracias.
Esta presentación tú la enviaste, ¿cierto? Es que no sé por qué no la... O sea, yo vi el mensaje, pero ya no lo veo.
Esta, sí, lo enviamos, la enviamos ayer y
Sí.
copiada tú también y Rodolfo.
Ujú.
Ah, ok. Creo que lo vi fue al correo, ¿cierto? Sí.
De acuerdo.
Igual cualquier cosa, yo tengo también, creo que tengo acá la presentación. Lo que necesiten, pues me avisan, ¿vale? Igual también voy a estar tras bambalinas, pero temas de grabación o que no, más técnicos, pues me comentan, no hay problema. Ya se encuentra en sala Luisa, ¿vale?
Esperamos a que estén varios en sala y damos un solo ingreso, que en 1 minuto, 2 minutos.
Ujú.
Sí, 2 minutos. No, esperemos un momento mientras son las 11.
Yo entrando yo hablo, ¿no? Nada más que sí, admitir. Ya está, Ana.
No, Luisa ya se encuentra con nosotros.
Hola,
Hola
Karen.
Luisa, ¿cómo estás?
Así es, buenas tardes, ¿cómo están? Hello, everyone.
Hola Luisa, ¿cómo estás?
Excelente, Juan, muchas gracias. Un gusto saludarles, verles.
Juan, tú eres el que está dando paso a las personas, ¿cierto?
No, 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 por el momento.
Yo lo estoy
Yo le estoy
haciendo.
dando. Ok,
Tú lo estás haciendo. Ok, ok. Yo lo hago, tranquilo, tranquilo. Yo estoy acá pendiente.
Karencita. Y ya empezó también el reading del meeting, que es importante. Hola Luisa, buen día, perdón.
Hola,
Bien,
Juliana.
nos faltan los participantes y hola Moni y Ana.
Buenos días.
Voy a dar paso a Ana y a Shaira.
Hi Ana, Kiara, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Nice to meet you too. Thanks for inviting me today.
No, thank you for being here. We are waiting for other participants, so perhaps in less than 5 minutes we can start. Is that correct?
Sounds good. Thanks, Rodolfo.
Oh, thank you. Juliana, do you think that we can send some WhatsApp messages to the other participants?
Yes, Rodolfo, I can send emails. Let me try to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Jonathan. Nice to see you again. By the way, Jonathan, I have an uncle, very nice and lovely uncle, and his name is Juan Moc Lassi. So
That's funny.
that's very fun. But his father was French, No, I don't know if your father is French too, but
Yes, well, that's where it comes from. Mock comes from Alsace-Lorraine. So,
okay.
yes, it is French origin.
Okay. We must be relatives.
Probably. I've not met many other people with my same last name.
No.
Also, I think we have two more participants that
I don't see them.
no, they seem to have the wrong link, so we are trying to contact them to give the right one. So if we can wait just one more minute and then we can start. I think Sergio's here, so.
Also to let you all know, I'm gonna have to leave at 12:45, I guess in 40 minutes, unfortunately.
40 minutes. Okay. So perhaps we can start. If you agree, we can start right now. Okay, well, good morning or good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar to analyze policies and regulations to reduce harmful tropospheric ozone concentrations in the atmosphere. But first, let me pass the floor to Anna Garson. She is the portfolio manager of superpollutants at the Clean Air Fund. Anna holds a master's degree in comparative and international education from the University of Oxford, but her hometown is Philadelphia. Is that correct, Anna? From Edgar.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe's.
Thank you. It's very kind of you to give me such an introduction. Yes, I just wanted to pop on briefly as I emailed most of you. And thank you for your time and your effort in helping us with this work. We know it's no small thing to spend some time with us today talking about tropospheric ozone. But this is quite an important initiative for us. This is sort of the first real in-depth thinking we've done on how to actually turn our the work we've been doing on tropospheric ozone, started with the policy brief that was published at COP, into sort of an actionable plan for the wider field. So I will be here today just in an observational capacity, but if you have any questions or if there's anything else you'd like to discuss at any time, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you. So back to you, Rodolfo.
Thank you, Anna. Well, let me go to the first slide here Juan Felipe will be helping me in that. You know that we are preparing a blueprint to tackle the ozone problem globally. And the objective of this blueprint is to establish a roadmap, a 3 years roadmap from 2025 to 2028. And we would like to, of course, outline specific activities to achieve international consensus and cooperation on including tropospheric ozone in the global agenda, not only in the agenda that is related with climate change, of course, that is very important, but also in all the agendas that are now overlapping, the Climate Change Convention and agreements. So that is the main objective of the blueprint. And we have some specific goals for this session. Can you put the next slide, please, Juan? Oh, okay, so the idea for this session is to tune up the short list of priority actions. Perhaps you participated in the survey that we recently did, and we would like to discuss or have a dialogue with you in order to prioritize those actions or those measurements that are the most important or relevant or more strategic for this 3 years period of time that is our main goal or task. Also, we would like to hear from you some suggestions to increase the granularity of the definition of those actions, the priority to also define the steps that are needed in order to fulfill these goals. So we have an agenda for today. We would like to discuss with you, of course, the scope and methodology of the webinar, of course, but we will have 2 different moments for the discussion. Juan Felipe will help us with some inline surveys to facilitate and to promote the discussions among us. And we will be trying to end with the selection of 3 policies that should be the most relevant for the next 3 years, as I was explaining, in the action of this alliance that we have to tackle tropospheric ozone, the alliance of the Clean Air Task Force with the Clean Air Institute, the Hill Consulting firm, but also with the Climate and Clean Air Coalition. So that is more or less the agenda, and I will pass the floor to the participants today in order that you can introduce yourself. And let me start with Chiara. Chiara, can you take the floor to introduce yourself to the other members of this group?
Yes, thank you, with pleasure. My name is Chiara Antonelli. I'm a head of Climate and Circular Economy Program at the Institute for European Environmental Policy, which is a think tank based in Brussels, Belgium. And originally I'm Italian.
Perfect. Thank you. We also have Jonathan Mock. Jonathan, please introduce yourself. Jonathan, do you have the microphone open? We cannot hear you. Or we can jump to Sergio Sanchez. Sergio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sergio Sanchez. I am the Senior Policy Director with Environmental Defense Fund. I lead the Global Clean Air Initiative. My base is in Mexico City, but my work is global. Thank you. Happy to join this group.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, we have Luisa Gonzalez. Luisa, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. Yes, I am Luisa Gonzalez. I am supporting the United Nations Environmental Program. And in the chemicals and pollution program initially and specifically on the air quality agenda in the Latin American and the Caribbean region. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here, Luisa. We also have now Beatriz Cárdenas. Beatriz is from Mexico, but she's working in Latin America with the WRI. Can you introduce yourself, Beatriz?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Beatriz Cárdenas. I am the Global Director of Air Quality at WRI, based in Mexico City. Yes, we work in Latin America, but also in other regions through our 12 offices. So very glad to participate in this workshop.
Thank you, Beatriz. And let me return with Jonathan. Jonathan, can you open your... yeah, thank you.
Sorry, yeah, I had connection issues. I'm Jonathan Mock. So I used to lead tropospheric ozone work for the U.S. State Department in the Office of the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate under John Kerry and then John Podesta. I am here right now in my personal capacity.
We are very happy to have you here, Jonathan, really. Okay, so in the next slide, we are trying to explain why we are here and why we are putting this new report on tropospheric ozone and why we are preparing the blueprint for the next 3 years. But that is important to emphasize that we now, of course, make a lot of attention to the premature deaths of the ozone problem as a co-benefit or the real benefit of controlling this pollutant and its precursors. But we started to control ozone when we realized in the 50s last century that ozone pollution was destroying crops and plants. So I think that this new approach that we are having, that is an integrated approach, a comprehensive approach to control ozone in the climate agenda, has these 3 basic foundations or this diagnosis that help us in convince the governments to include this super pollutant in their climate commitments. So in order to warm up the discussion about this specific issue of today, to set up the policies that will be able to reduce or to mitigate the ozone problem, we will have an exercise. So I will pass the floor to Juan Felipe, who will explain this Mentimeter exercise that we will be doing. Juan Felipe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Yeah, so can we please ask you to go to menti.com and please enter that code, or just scan the QR that you see on your screen. The code is 46650545. You can either go through or use your mobile phone or any additional device that you have, or if you are in our computer, you can just open on a different screen. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and I'm going to the Menti so we can see the results.
You didn't ask me, but I also connect myself with the Mentimeter. Is that correct one?
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
So you, as soon as you enter, you will see something like this.
Felipe, could you please put again the code or type it?
Sure.
I think the best way to do it is through.
Is that the code 4665?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. 46650546.
I entered things, but I don't see, I'm on the slide, but there's no dots or anything on the slide.
Yeah, just make sure that you press send at the end of your stream.
Yeah, so
What
I did press send and I just see the I guess empty figure, empty graph. Oh, it says press H to show responses. I don't know.
It's working on mine, so perhaps it's
That's right. Now we can see the responses. Yeah, what we are asking you is to please rate within these three statements, what do you, in your opinion, is the impact that action on tropospheric ozone will have, and which is the level of effort that it implies? So the number one dot is referring to climate mitigation benefits. The number two dot is referring to air quality and health benefits. And the number three dot is referring to agriculture and ecosystem benefits. If you agree, Rodolfo, maybe we can open the mic just for a few minutes to discuss on this.
Yeah, I think that we are asking you about a topic that is relevant for us, of course, as policymakers, but don't be polite. If you think that we have to put more emphasis in some specific action, put it as the top priority or relevance in these Mentimeter questions, and try to use the lower grades also, not only those that are, of course, in the upright side of the graph, or that will be in the upside part of the graph. Kiara, are you back? Did you were able to connect to the Mentimeter?
Yes, I connected.
Okay, thank you.
Beatriz, did you have any comments? I saw your hand.
No, I can wait. I mean, once we finish, then I can wait for the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems that the one with the less effort is the one related to air quality and health benefits, and the one that will require much more effort will be the agriculture and ecosystems sector. I don't know if any comments, anyone wants to jump in and comment on that.
Beatriz, I think, well, and Jonathan. Jonathan has to leave very soon, so perhaps we can go immediately with Jonathan's comments, please.
Okay, sure. All right. Sorry for Beatrice, because I do have to leave. I will, I guess, jump in. Sorry. I think I definitely agree with the difficulty prioritization here in terms of, I do think in terms of the science and connection, the air quality is the easiest. I think the climate, there's a lot of work. And then the, and the climate, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done scientifically. And then on the ecosystems, there's even further uncertainty. I'm not sure I agree with how this has lined up in terms of the impact. I think the awareness on the climate aspect is pretty interesting in that we kept saying this before. When you look at the IPCC math, basically the ozone impact is the second most important greenhouse gas, or third most after CO2 and methane. And so we spent all this effort in the State Department looking at fluorinated gases and N2O, but the impact of just VOCs and CO, so the non-methane ozone precursors, was higher than that. So I feel like there's an awareness issue here, and there's an untapped mitigation potential that could be addressed from the climate perspective. So it was really intriguing to us, I guess in this the last administration in the US, was, is there unrealized climate mitigation potential that people haven't been paying attention to, which seems likely because no one in the climate policy space was thinking about ozone as a climate mitigation tool because it's complicated, but the prize is really huge. And so everyone's talking about overshoot and we're passing 1.5. And this IPCC says that I think it was something like 0.25 degrees, and you saw here 0.23 is from ozone. So if you can get 0.1 degrees from rapid ozone mitigation, that's huge. And so to me, I think that there's a lot of uncertainty there, but I think the impact is really high, especially when we're chasing all of these things. We're trying to start thinking about investing in carbon dioxide removal. Some people are starting to talk about SRM, all sorts of things, but like no one's talking about ozone as this tool that could be this huge mitigation benefit. That seems crazy to me, but I think it is really related to awareness, in that when we were talking about this in the previous administration in the US, a lot of other partners internationally like, it didn't even realize ozone was a greenhouse gas. What are you talking about? So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on this now, and sorry for cutting ahead in line.
No, that's a very relevant comment, because it is true. Many of the negotiators, many of the policymakers in the climate management offices that we have in our countries are not educated in this kind of pollutants, specifically in the ozone chemistry. So it is hard for many people to understand why ozone is relevant for mitigation policies and regulation. There is no clear link between cleaner policies and programs with climate change. When we talk about ozone, of course, it is harder to explain in the primary sector with people that are dedicated to agriculture or forestry activities, how the ozone is destroying their crops and how they can benefit in participating, of course, in policies to control ozone precursors. So this is the field that is like a not very clear field to understand and to act on ozone problem. Beatriz, do you still? Sorry, Jonathan.
Sorry, I was just going to add one more thing. When I guess we had, I feel like, a game plan or thought out policies and have been talking to people about how to address this from the climate perspective and kind of thinking through policy pathways, hadn't really figured that out or even come up with ideas or a plan or anything from the ecosystems. Mostly been using that as a talking point and saying, like, because it is also important, but that to us was something that was a little more difficult to penetrate and think through. And how do you link that to agricultural policy was something we hadn't really explored at all yet. But seems relevant and important, but that's another dimension because you're linking it. That's a whole other area of kind of international policy making, is trying to bring in the agricultural folks. And that traditionally, at least in our system, has been, I guess for climate policy and air quality policy in general, has been really hard to get the agricultural community to care about this type of stuff. I think that's why effort being highest, I think, makes a lot of sense. But the impact is also, I think, could be there, but it's just more uncertainty. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Sorry for speaking so much.
No, that's good. Beatriz, do you want to take the floor now?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
My comment is that I think that you are doing two different questions, related but different ones, and I was having some problems of answering. One is the effort and one is the importance, right, of the impact. So you are asking increased awareness and targeted funding for science and policy. So there is enough evidence, scientific evidence of the impacts on, even with different uncertainties, I agree. But we have 40 decades of the long-range transport of air pollution that started working with ozone as other pollutants, right? One of the pollutants. So the science needs to be funded, of course, and particularly for the global south. And the increased awareness is another. So there is a different effort in science, funding science and policy, and there is a different effort for increased awareness, because really for increased awareness, yes, no one, particularly those working on climate, they don't know anything about other pollutants other than CO2, even though there are a lot of the short term pollutant assessment and all the work that the CCAC has been done over the last 12 years, right? Still, the climate community doesn't know. And the air quality, atmospheric science community, even though they know the impacts of ozone on health, climate, and agriculture, if they are not related to the climate, it is not that relation. So I think that my suggestion here is maybe we have to separate the increased awareness and the target funding for each of them, because I think that we will have difference. I do think that the effort for increased awareness as well as the science on health impacts is much less than the other ones. But in all of them, we have relatively ground science to show that there are impacts. It's just that no one knows. And of course, the policy effort, well, it's a lot because has to be included. It's different in Europe by having the long-range transport of air pollutants and the Gothenburg Protocol, comparing to other countries in which also is not even measured, right? Even though you have that into the air quality standard, maybe it's not even a concern. So that's maybe awareness.
Yeah, I think that you are doing a very good point, and now is the moment, Juan Felipe, to pass to the other slide, to the next slide, because we are organizing these webinars in 3 different channels, no? Can you put the next slide, Juan Felipe? As Beatriz was mentioning, yes, the scientific effort will be different in magnitude and complexity than the effort that we are doing in policy and regulation. And of course, the implementation of all these recommendations that we will be doing will be a very difficult task in my opinion and in my experience. But it is true that we have these 3 different topics. We merge those topics in this first exercise in Mentimeter, but the blueprint is structured around these 3 key work streams. We will be mainly focus our effort and discussions and dialogue today in the policy and regulation topics, because the idea is to synchronize, no, to harmonize global climate agreements, regional and national frameworks, and of course the regulation that we have internationally and nationally to tackle ozone precursors. And we would like to promote strategies that make sense to engage and generate commitments from different stakeholders, and of course from the governments, from the policymakers in our governments, but also in the international organizations that are dealing with this climate change and cleaner, global cleaner pollution problem. So in the next slide, you will see that we have some, the previous one, that one, yeah. We have some guiding questions to develop the policy and regulation section of the blueprint. I will not read it, but you will have it here as a reference, of course, for the discussion, because related with the opportunities that we have and that we have been developing some of these opportunities, or creating these opportunities to integrate tropospheric ozone in the next 3 years efforts of and we would like also to to define the regulatory mechanisms that will help us in order to, of course, to controlling tropospheric ozone. That is a secondary pollutant, but in order to control directly and indirectly the precursors of ozone. So those are the questions, but you have to remember that we are working in the other two work streams. Can you put very rapidly, Juan Felipe, the explanations of the two other streams of work?
Sure, just to let you know, Rodolfo, that both Jonathan and Sergio have the hand.
Yeah, Jonathan and Sergio Sanchez too, sorry.
I was just going to respond, but if Juan Felipe wants to go through things first, I can wait.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan, are you there?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I was saying I was just going to respond on the kind of questions that are on the screen, but I can wait until Juan Felipe wants to go through the other two areas. That's fine. Sorry.
Okay, and Sergio, do you want to mention something about the previous slide? Because now we
honestly, I had some difficulties in answering the questions because I was thinking about the difference of the fundamental science about ozone and its impacts, and on the other side, about the scientific evidence in particular locations. And these are complementary issues, but they are different. So I fully agree with Beatriz that the science about tropospheric ozone is very extensive, but not necessarily the evidence, no? We in Mexico have developed infrastructure to measure and understand ozone, and we used monitoring, but also modeling, and we have been making tremendous research, but it's not necessarily the case in other places. So I think that the generation of evidence, as you have pointed out here, and that's making me clear the intention, should be highlighted in terms of developing these abilities to understand the issues. Let me just tell you about the example of Brazil. Brazil has been using ethanol for over 3 decades with the intention to reduce climate emissions, greenhouse gases, and PM, but at the cost of keeping ozone levels high, and even at the risk of extending the high levels of ozone over broad regions around the country. So I think that serves, not necessarily about Brazil just, but about the specific mention to the tools and insights we need at the local level to make the point, to develop the necessary monitoring and modeling and other infrastructure that can really help countries to move ahead, particularly in the areas which ozone is higher. Thank you.
Yeah. Jonathan, do you want to take the floor again?
Yeah, I think I should because I have to leave shortly. So I'm going to try to go through the questions. So first, I think I preface this what I think some of you have seen, but on the last full day of the Biden administration, the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate Office, we published a kind of ozone meeting summary document that kind of has a lot of the recommendations and consensus of things that we would have liked to have done and things for moving forward. And this was meetings that we hosted with scientists on the sidelines of the American Geophysical Union fall meeting. So it was scientists from kind of mostly US-based scientists, but some international. And that has some things there that relate to the scientific evidence, but also drive into the policy and regulation because they're connected. So I would recommend reviewing that document. Oh, thank you, Anna. So yes. So in terms of the first one, specific opportunities, and I don't know who, I think some people may have seen a presentation we gave on this at one point, but maybe not. I think the main thing is thinking about the next global stocktake in 2029. So in the global stocktake, I mean, there was the global methane pledge that got all this attention to and work on methane. And one of the things that that did was start driving finance and international opportunities to kind of catalyze action on this. And in an ideal great world, you'd like to start seeing climate finance and all sorts of work be able to be applicable to ozone reduction projects. And people start thinking about that. But there's lots of ways that like things that are needed beforehand. But thinking about the headline and working back from the global stocktake, you could say, okay, it would be really great if in the next global stocktake, there's a line that says, and tropospheric ozone is important, like something like that. That sends an important signal. How do we get there? That working back, I think one of the key inputs the global stocktake last time was the IPCC reports. And so IPCC Working Group 1 just came out with their outline. They agreed to that earlier in February. There's a section there on short-lived climate forcers, but there's some risks in that it is a gigantic chapter. So it used to be a whole chapter just on short-lived climate forcers. Now it is a gigantic chapter on kind of lots of different issues. So I think the community needs to pay special attention to that chapter to make sure that ozone gets an adequate treatment, because what will happen is in the process, you'll have that chapter being written by covering a lot of different topics. It's going to be extremely important for short-lived climate forcer scientists. Vaishali Naik, who was the US co-lead on the short-lived climate forcers chapter for AR6, will be a good resource, and I recommend Clean Air Fund. I think I've connected with her previously. But figuring out how to make sure that that chapter adequately covers this issue. And then what will happen is there will be the negotiations at some point on the summary for policymakers. And if there's adequate text in that chapter, that can then become text in the summary for policymakers, which kind of says ozone is important and has significant climate mitigation benefits with health opportunities. And that's the then link to then get that into the global stocktake. So that really means doing the scientific work now, also because the literature cutoff for the IPCC, I guess, hasn't really been confirmed yet, but it's probably going to be 2027. So it means making sure that science that's needed is done before 2027, making sure there's good people in the report. Nominations are open now. So this is imperative for all people working on this issue to make sure that good people are nominated and that you follow up with the IPCC. The US, unfortunately, has been kind of kneecapped in our engagement with the IPCC now, as people may have seen. That used to be my office, so that's been distressing, but it is what it is. So need the kind of others to step up to make sure that goes through that process. Parallel to the global stocktake in terms of leverage points, there's also the short-lived climate forcers report, and that's supposed to come out in 2027. And what we think would be really powerful and helpful is to have basically a package of technical assistance tools and things to utilize that report once it's out around 2027. So we discussed internally about ideas of having basically simple modeling tools that could let countries calculate the ozone impact of precursor emissions and things like that. But once you do that, you all of a sudden open up the opportunities for financial firms, for corporates, whatever, to like attach ozone to their climate policy work and their climate policy kind of agenda. So if they say we have climate goals, ozone contributes to this, and here's how. So we think that that could unlock a lot of finance and leverage to kind of address this problem. So those are kind of some high level thoughts on regulatory mechanisms. Again, I think having some of the kind of the attention from the global stocktake and coming down that way is the climate angle. I'm talking more about that position. For better or for worse, and this also may be changing because who knows what will happen on this, but in the past, climate has been a better motivator for international finance than air pollution, because climate is viewed in the global north, again, for better or worse, as a global commons issue, whereas air pollution is more local. And so it's easier to convince funders in the global north to say, well, this is helping everyone, or same thing with corporates. And so it's been easier politically internally to do that. And so linking the two is helpful in our view. And so that can help deploy more action. So that's why I've been kind of focusing on the climate side of things, even though there is all of this air pollution angle as well. But building the capacity from that angle can help drive international focus and attention. But there's a lot of need, obviously, for capacity on the regulatory side. But if there is funding and attention and kind of simple tools and things, that can really help work on this. In terms of, again, air quality and climate frameworks, I don't, you're not going to amend the Paris Agreement to talk about this, but you could get something in the global stocktake. And I think that would be powerful, could lead to kind of spin-offs of mini global methane pledge, whatever, something like that in an ideal world. And with that, I'll stop there because I actually need to go in a minute. But thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with all of you. I'm sorry, so sorry I can't stay for the whole time. If anyone wants to talk about this issue further, I'm really happy to do so. I think it's extremely important and an overlooked area, and an area where we can, I think, make progress on something that will be helpful for the climate, for air pollution, and for, again, ecosystems, agriculture, in a way that's hopefully a little bit maybe lower and little easier to move through, I hope. So yeah, good luck, everyone, and thanks so much for letting me join this. And sorry I can't stay for the whole time. Bye.
Thank you, Jonathan, and good luck for you too. And thank you for all the support that you gave us. Thank you. Okay, so as we were mentioning, can you put the next slide, Juan Felipe, because there was a webinar yesterday talking about only the scientific evidence for policy making, and there will be another webinar tomorrow. If you put the next slide, please. Putting emphasis in the implementation phase of the tropospheric ocean policies and strategies that we will define today. So the main topic today is, can you put the next slide, is to select from these 5 measures or policies that came from the survey, the online survey, what are the 3 most important? But we have 10. So we will have another exercise with Mentimeter to get the prioritization from you about these 5, or including the 10 recommendations that we collected from the survey. So Juan Felipe will explain us again what will be the procedure in order to do that. As soon as we have your selection of 3 policies that must be the most relevant in the blueprint, we will have a dialogue on those. Yeah, Juan Felipe.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Just to give a little bit of context, we, as a part of this formulating the tropospheric ozone blueprint process, we did an online survey in which we asked to different stakeholders to select from a list of actions within each work stream which of the 2 were the most urgent, or which 2 they prioritized as the most relevant to start with. And we got about 50 responses. More than 20 of them talk about the policy issues. And with that, or within that responses, the most voted actions were the ones that you see in this list, from the number 1 to number 5. We also had other 5 additional actions that get less attention through the online survey. So what we kindly ask you to do at this moment is to read this list, and then we are going to ask you that if you think there is a different one or another action that is not listed, or at least not prioritized within the first 5, then write it in the Menti that we are just going to share with you. But first, if is it okay with you, we can give 1 more minute so we can all go through the list of actions, and then we can go into the Menti activity again.
Let me ask you, because I'm assuming that you participated in the online survey, but I don't know if you did it. Is someone who didn't participate in the online survey, or everyone participated? Because if you are familiar with these measures or policy actions, you will see that there is an emphasis, of course, in the most pragmatic actions. And this is my point, the measure 7, elevating tropospheric ozone within UNFCCC processes, was not ranking as the most important. And I was always saying that without that, it is almost impossible to convince governments or organizations, or philanthropy organizations, to promote and finance ozone actions, regulations, studies, research, because it is not part of the big discussions that we are having at COPs. It is not included. If we do not include tropospheric ozone in the documents, the official documents, in the decisions of the COPs, it will be very difficult to overcome that that black hole that we are having when we talk about superpollutants. Beatriz, do you have the floor?
Yeah, I did not participate in the survey. In fact, I'm sorry that the time passed. I was planning to do that, but my question here is, I mean, among this list of actions to consider for the blueprint ranking, I see most of them are towards the climate. So why there is no, I mean, I see less emphasis, even in the list of the 10, on the health impacts. Because there is, as you know, I mean, there is a lot of work by WHO pushing for having ozone, not only as the guidelines, but working with governments to bring the capacities for measuring ozone, right? So, I mean, there is the other movement. I agree, there is not a lot of money on the health part, but there is, in addition to the UNFCCC, the other avenue is to keep elevating ozone in WHO. I mean, we have been focusing a lot on PM 2.5, right? And if you go to and start working with many cities and countries in the global south, ozone is not even in their mind, right? Even though they have high levels, it's not really as an important, because we have been focusing a lot on PM 2.5. So my question here is, why most of the actions are here towards climate and not really on health or agriculture, if they were part of the 3 impacts that you were listing in the first ones? I mean,
Well,
what is the rationale of only bringing this on the blueprint?
There is no rationale in the list. This is the result of the survey. As Juan Felipe explained, we sent this survey to more than 150 different experts. We received 60 answers from the experts, and they decided to, well, collectively, but not connected, they decided to create this ranking solution. So, but as you are doing, we would like to add different measures, like the health, for example, campaigns that we can promote at urban areas or rural areas. But it is up to you. So now is the time to participate again in the Mentimeter, to relocate or to prioritize those that we think that are relevant. That is the main objective of this webinar. The floor is yours, Juan Felipe, to again explain how we will develop this exercise.
Yeah, just let me just say that this is the kind of feedback that we also want, Beatriz. I mean, the point that you made is really relevant, I think. And of course, if you see that there are additional policy measures or actions or strategy that we should consider or include or emphasize more, we kindly ask you to share that with us within this Menti activity. So I kindly ask you to go again into menti.com or scan this QR code. The code is already on your in the meeting chat also. And I will share the